Mythic Plus for Fury Warrior is a hell of a lot of fun, so let's give you some tips and tricks and help you through a Mythic Plus dungeon. Quickly before we start, I want to shout out my Twitch stream where we go live every Sunday, Tuesday and Wednesday from 7:30 to 11 PM UK playing WoW, answering all your Fury Warrior questions. And if you want to further support us, then please do consider giving this video a like, subscribing to the channel and turning on your notifications. Anyway, on with the video. Welcome back, champions, to another video, and today we're going over once again the Mythic Plus and how to do Mythic Pluses as a Fury Warrior. Although people still don't want this in dungeons, there are hundreds if not thousands of Fury Warriors out there pumping out 21s, 22s, 23 dungeons in time and doing amazing at this. So don't let the meta discourage you, don't let the MDI discourage you. Fury Warriors are still very, very good in Mythic Plus. And here's some tips and tricks to make you stand out from the crowd, kind of help you on your way to get Keystone before 9.1 drops. So we're going to start off talking about talents and stats. I've had a few comments in the past talking about stats and kind of stat weights and what to go for, so we're going to go over both of them right now. So starting off in talents, we are beginning with fresh meat. We're going for fresh meat because it means every single time you hit a target for the first time, you can get enraged. And this means if you don't hit other targets, if you move back when you do a Blaze Storm, for example, you can jump to another target, get another fresh meat trigger, meaning that you can be enraged even more than you've possibly ever been in your entire life. But I'll go into more details about that later. Next, we're going to be going for Stormbolt. You need that stun. Nothing in this row matters other than Stormbolt. Up next, we're going for Massacre for that increased range on our executes. Then we're going for Warpaint, Cruelty, Blade Storm for that beautiful AoE, and then finally Anger Management. This is the main build you go for. There's not really any other builds for Mythic Plus for Fury Warriors. You can sometimes take a talent such as Impending Victory if you have enough stuns in your group, but personally I would err on the side of caution and always have your Stormbolt there anyway. Other than that though, that is your talent build. Let's look at some of our stats. So like I said, a few people have put comments about this and they want to know kind of the stat weights, but here's the general rule. For Fury Warrior, you're looking at strength followed by haste, mastery, crit and versatility. There are no soft caps, and my main advice to you would be make sure that your haste always stays above 20, 25 if possible. As long as it's above 20, you can have good haste, and then you can put some more things into your mastery. Obviously, strength is our main stat that we have, and regardless of what the weapon item is, your strength is key here. Unlike other expansions, strength means so much more. So if you look at things such as stat weights, you'll see that strength puts out overall 4 points towards your DPS, whereas your other secondary stats kind of only make up about 1.5, give or take a few. So generally speaking, most of your stats are worth similar, where strength is your main one. So if you have something like a weapon that gives you a lot of strength, or anything that gives you strength, always prioritize your strength over everything pretty much. However, percentage wise, you want to kind of see roughly what you see a lot of the higher end players is having kind of 20% haste and then around 30 mastery and things like that. So that's your general thing, but obviously every priority list. There you go. Just because I know a few of you commented about it, there's a little bit of a breakdown for it. And our last comment about gear, our legendary here is obviously going to be Signet of the Tormented Kings. This is a powerhouse of a legendary, even in raiding and in Mythic Plus. It is insane, and if you get those good triggers, if you get the triggers at the perfect times, you can charge in, do a Blaze Storm, do a Recklessness, get another Blaze Storm, do an Ancient Aftershock. That is so much burst AoE going out there, which could really, really save your skin in so many situations. So to summarize that section, our talent builds are key in what we're going to be having here for Mythic Plus. You need to have that talent build I mentioned. Our stat priority, like I said, isn't a major point for Mythic Plus, but I know some people asked about it, so that's in there. Our gear, we're always going for the higher item level that's going to give us more strength, because that is so key here, and then we're focusing on our haste, mastery, crit priority list. Our legendary is always going to be Signet of the Tormented Kings. It's also important to talk about Covenant. So our Covenant for this, I know I mentioned it, but it is going to be Night Fae. Night Fae is the strongest Covenant you can go for in Mythic Plus. Ancient Aftershock is insanely good. The knockdown you get from that, the constant knockdown, so the repeatable knockdown as long as they're stood in it, the dot you get from it, and the burst damage is so viable. If you have 4 or 5 things casting something at the same time and you need to interrupt all of them, you smash out that Ancient Aftershock and you're going to knock them all down. By having the core and soulbind build as well, you're going to be putting out insane damage with that first strike ability, which kind of boosts up that crit, boosts out even more damage. Obviously, be mindful, because the amount of damage you're doing, your threat generation is going to be through the roof, and you'll possibly take a lot of aggro during your kind of burst Ancient Aftershock periods. However, that's fine. We're taking things down. Just walk away, let the tank deal with it. You'll be fine. Okay, so another break point here just to summarize the previous points. I realize I'm coming at this quite quickly and quite fast, so I want to make sure that I'm summarizing what's been mentioned previously. So making sure our talents are strong, that our gear and weapon choices are there, that we have the correct legendary, we have the correct covenant. Now there's some intricacies that I want to talk to you about that will help you out in Mythic Plus dungeons specifically. So as I mentioned previously, we have fresh meat as one of our talents. There's something that you can do to help you out to ensure that your enrage timer is kept up as high as possible. If you get yourself a weak aura down in the description from down below, there's a link there for a weak aura that will help you keep track track of who you have hit and who is still fresh meat for you. What I would suggest you do is you charge in, hit someone with a bloodthirst, back out a little bit, do your whirlwind to get your whirlwind buff, and then go back in and hit a different target. This way you're going to be if you constantly jump in between your targets, you're going to be getting a fresh meat trigger every single time you hit a new target. When it comes to the whirlwind buff as well, because you're only hitting one enemy, you still get that whirlwind buff. So even though you're moving out of the way and you're only hitting one enemy, you should still get that buff, meaning you can then go straight back in, hit a different target, get a fresh meat trigger, and then have more enrage, so you can make sure that you're getting your ancient aftershocks, your recklessnesses out, and your blaze storms out. This can be a bit tricky to do, so I definitely would recommend getting yourself the weak aura that keeps a track on who is fresh meat, because this will help you know if you hit someone, because if you have hit them, then you're obviously not going to get it. We're now going to touch on our rotation, just because I briefly mentioned some parts of rotation there. So as we know, generally speaking, our rotation is we're going to be charging in, we're going to be hitting a bloodthirst to ensure that we get our fresh meat trigger, and then we're going to be doing a whirlwind, and then 2 other abilities in our priority list. Generally speaking, if you're in rage and the mob is fresh, recklessness, whatever trigger you get from that, and then an ancient aftershock and a blade storm, and then go back into your whirlwind rotation. For most of Mythic Plus, it will be 2 spells, whirlwind, 2 spells, and you repeat that over and over, making sure you're hitting cooldowns as soon as they're off timer and getting damage out as quickly as possible. As I said, you always have to be enraged before you cast things such as recklessness, blade storm, and ancient aftershock. If you're not enraged, you're not going to be casting these spells at all. I have a whole video on rotation up here, so have a look at that. It doesn't include ancient aftershock, but like I said, the only time that you need to include ancient aftershock is when you're enraged and when you need it. Generally speaking, off cooldown. I would also suggest that you whirlwind as your final ability just before something dies. So just the second just before something dies, hit a quick whirlwind, so when you go to your next pack, you do not need to do a whirlwind there, and you can go straight off onto your 2 spells. As you can see on my kind of gameplay, I have a weak aura that helps me track my whirlwind and how many I have left until I have to cast a new one. But the nice thing here, like I said, if you do that whirlwind just as something dies, when you go straight over to the next pack, you can go straight in and know you're going to hit multiple targets with your first cast spell. So to summarize the entire video, I know this has been quick and short and snappy. There are videos on my channel that help specific things like Night Fae builds and such as the Fury Warrior rotation as well, so do give those a look. I just wanted to give you some new nuances that I've kind of learned through other YouTubers. I'll put a link down below to who I'm talking about, as well as some things that I've been doing when I've been doing Mythic Plus recently, seeing as I've been pushing quite a few 15s and pushing that Keystone Master in the last couple of weeks. Down below, like I said, there's going to be a few links to a few other YouTube videos. There's one which gives you a list to every single spell reflectable ability. This is going to be key when you're in your dungeons. There's a lot of things that you can use spell reflect on, and it can help you so much when it comes to doing Mythic Plus dungeons, because you can reflect things, you can bounce things, you can counter things, and that is exactly what you need to be doing. So there'll be linking down for that. There's also a link to every single kickable spell in the entire Mythic Plus arena, as it were. That video will give you a complete guide on every single thing that you can hit with your Storm Belt and everything that you can obviously hit with your interrupts as well. So give that video a watch, look over it, and then you'll know what to interrupt. And then my last tip for you guys would be know your dungeon. Download Mythic Dungeon tools, talk to your team, speak with them about what you need to do in this dungeon. Watch guides for specific dungeons to know what specific abilities do and what things need to be made note of, avoided, jumped out of the way, skipped, and so on and so forth. If you know your dungeon, you can time your cooldown so much better, and I'll go into further detail about this now. A big thing for Mythic Plus, especially for Fury Warriors, is knowing when to cast certain spells and when to cast your cooldowns. Always cast your cooldowns. It's a really hard hump to get over, but basically if it's off cooldown and there's a mob there, cast it. If they're at 50%, cast it. If they're at 40%, cast it. Still cast it if they're alive, because if you still need that damage, especially on weeks where mobs have got that increased health. Obviously, ideally you want to make sure that you have got your spells ready for when you go to your boss, but just be mindful of how far away your boss is and maybe hold them back for that period of time. But up until that point, every single time they're available, hit them straight away. And that will only come through knowing your dungeon. So watching guides, looking at MDT and looking at routes that people have put online. There's a whole way you can download pre-made routes for every single dungeon. Look at them, see where they go, and that way you can help time yourself as to where you're going to be going, where you're going to be casting certain spells. And like I said, be aware of your talent build. Know that you've gone in with the wrong or right talent build. Go in with the right gear, go in with the right legendary and covenant. Know when to cancel a blaze storm if you're on a single target. Know to move out before casting your whirlwind so you can still maintain that fresh meat on some of those other mobs. Know to make sure that you're casting your whirlwind before you go to your next pack so you get the buff. Small things like that will help you through and mean that you'll be completely fine in Mythic Plus dungeons. Like I said, there's hundreds of people out there hitting 20s at the moment. So you know that you're going to be completely fine doing this, and it will happen. You'll get your Keystone Master, you'll get those 15s, and you'll be perfectly fine. Other than that, guys, I hope you found this video useful. I realise it's been, like I said, it's been quite fast paced and a little bit bitty in here and there, but there's so many small bits of information that kind of link in with every single other part. So I wanted to make sure that I included them all. So if it has been at all confusing, please leave a comment down below. I tried to make sure that I keep quite consistent with these videos and the same kind of like style and setup for them. So if it has been too confusing, just let me know down below. I can always redo it. It's a non-issue. Like I said, there was some things that I've put in this that I've learned recently from another YouTuber. I think his name is Dex. Anyway, there's a link down below to the video that he did. It's a half-an-hour long video all about Mythic Plus. He's one of the top ranking Fury Warriors out there for Mythic Plus and for other things. Have a look at that video. It's, like I said, it's very, very long. It's quite a lot of information to hold in, so give it a watch it 3 or 4 times. But I've learned some things from him over the past couple of weeks, some things that I've been doing over the last kind of like couple of months where I've actually been pushing for 15s recently, and I just jumbled it all together, made this video, shoved it back at you guys. So I hope it's been useful, and hopefully we'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Bye bye.